Beamy, greater than 21. Working summer night shifts at Seattle Airport. Dead terminals, fluorescent lights humming overhead. Mostly cleaning, moving luggage, killing time with cheap coffee while waiting for delays to clear. Thought it would be just another quiet night of routine, nothing worth remembering. Then I noticed her, Chloe, 20, sitting by the window with suitcase tucked at her side. She stared out into the dark runway, face tired, hands fidgeting on her cup. I grabbed 2 coffees from the machine, walked over, offered her one. She blinked up at me, eyes soft, but hiding something sharp underneath the exhaustion. "Do you work here?" she asked, voice light, but lips trembling slightly at the edges. I nodded, half smiling, watching her exhale like my answer carried weight I didn't understand. "I'm heading back to Portland," she whispered. "Things at home are complicated." She forced a small joke, but her voice cracked, truth bleeding through the humor. We started talking, nothing deep at first, classes, summer jobs, random movies she liked. But the longer she spoke, the more I heard what she wasn't saying. Every laugh carried strain. Every glance at the floor whispered she didn't want to leave. I found myself leaning in, hanging on her words like they mattered more than flight times. Hours blurred, her story spilling slowly, my jokes clumsy, both of us clinging to the moment. She asked why I worked nights. I said it was easier to think in quiet. She smiled at that, like she finally met someone who understood her kind of silence. For once, the terminal didn't feel empty. It felt alive, charged with something unspoken. I caught myself wishing her flight would cancel completely, just so she'd have to stay. But announcements kept echoing, countdown ticking, reminding us this night couldn't last forever. Still, when she looked at me, I felt like we were the only ones left. And in that strange stillness, a stranger became the one person I didn't want to lose. Finally, the announcement came. Boarding for Portland, passengers asked to line up at the gate. But Chloe stayed seated, her suitcase untouched, fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. I raised a brow, half smiling. "You're not moving?" Expecting her to laugh and stand. Instead, she shook her head softly, eyes locked on mine. "Can I stay a little longer?" Her voice cracked, barely audible. "It's just easier to breathe when I'm sitting here with you." My chest tightened, a rule flashing in my head. I'm staff. I should keep distance. But instead of telling her no, I sat down again, closer than before. She leaned against my shoulder, just slightly, enough to make my pulse hammer loud. For a minute, it didn't feel like an airport anymore, just 2 people hiding from the world. I forgot about rules, forgot about time, forgot everything except her warmth against me. Second peak hit, lines blurred, uniforms meaningless. All that mattered was the weight of this moment. And for the first time that summer, I wanted the night to never end. Soon another call echoed, her name listed, attendants urging passengers to board or risk missing flight. Chloe stirred, lifting her head, but her hand stayed tangled loosely with mine. I stared down at our fingers, frozen, unsure if I should let go first. She looked at me, eyes heavy with something between fear and hope, waiting silently. I thought of saying, "Go, you'll miss it," but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I whispered, "It's your call," voice shaky, knowing I'd regret whatever choice came next. She stood slowly, suitcase handle creaking, but her grip never left mine until the last second. Her thumb brushed across my hand like a goodbye and a promise all at once. I felt the room tilt, the whole terminal shrinking around the space where she stood. Finally, she let go, stepping toward the gate, but her eyes clung to mine. I sat there, hands trembling, unsure if I should have followed or let her walk away. And in that limbo, the airport suddenly felt emptier than it ever had before. She paused at the gate, attendants scanning tickets, voices sharp, urging her to move quickly. But Chloe turned back, eyes locking on me across the nearly empty terminal. For a heartbeat, it felt like the world held still, waiting for my choice. I could have run up, said something reckless, begged her to stay another night. Instead, I froze, palms sweating, heart hammering too loud for words to come out. She smiled faintly, lifted her hand in a small wave, bittersweet, fragile, almost trembling. That wave cut deeper than any goodbye I'd ever known, carving itself into my chest. She disappeared behind the gate doors, suitcase rolling, her steps echoing longer than they should. I sat back, numb, staring at the spot where she vanished, questioning everything. Oh, was I supposed to chase her? Was silence the safer choice or the bigger mistake? All I knew was my shift wasn't over, but my night already felt finished, and the terminal that once felt alive now collapsed into hollow walls and buzzing lights. Later, sweeping the floor, I kept replaying her words. It's easier to breathe with you. Each syllable dug into me, louder than the PA system calling late passengers. I thought of her leaning on my shoulder, the way she tried to hide her shaking. My chest ached, not from exhaustion, but from knowing I let her walk away. The rest of the shift blurred, mopping, hauling carts, nodding at coworkers who barely noticed me. Inside, all I saw was Chloe's eyes, wide, waiting, asking something I never answered. I stepped outside after clocking out, dawn breaking over the runway, sky glowing pale pink. Every plane taking off felt like her, vanishing into clouds, gone before I could follow. I lit a cigarette, though I'd quit months ago, just to calm my shaking hands. Exhaled smoke and whispered, should have gone after her, into the empty morning air. But the silence gave me nothing back, only the hum of engines in the distance. And I realized the hardest part wasn't missing her. It was not knowing what could have been. Days passed, but her face stayed in my head, haunting every quiet corner of the terminal. I carried coffee to passengers, scanned tickets, smiled politely, but none of it reached my eyes. Colleagues joked about me spacing out, said I looked like a ghost in uniform. They didn't know I was stuck replaying a single night over and over again. Every gate I passed looked like hers. Every stranger's suitcase reminded me of Chloe's. I checked flight boards unconsciously, eyes darting to Portland departures like I expected her back. Each time the name flashed, my chest tightened, though I knew it was pointless hope. Still, I clung to it, imagining her stepping off a plane, smiling like she had before. Reality never matched, just businessmen, families, tourists, never her, never the girl from that night. I told myself to move on, that she was gone, but my heart wouldn't agree. Sometimes, when the terminal went silent, I swore I could still hear her laugh. And every time, I felt the regret sharper, like fresh glass cutting deeper. One night on break, I sat outside near the runway fence, smoke curling in the wind. Engines roared in the distance, lights blinking across the tarmac like restless stars. I thought about chasing her that night, running past the gate, breaking every rule. Imagined what it would have felt like to grab her hand, not let go. Would she have stayed? Or laughed, called me crazy, boarded anyway, leaving me worse off? I'd never know, and that was the part eating me alive every single night. Regret was heavier than any luggage I'd ever hauled across the terminal floors. I leaned my head back against the fence, whispered, should have risked it, to the sky. A plane lifted into the air, tail lights vanishing, reminding me of her again. Somewhere in Portland, she was living her life, maybe not even thinking of me. But for me, that night was still alive, still replaying in endless loops. And no amount of flights or shifts could erase the ache of what never happened. A week later, I was assigned again to the same terminal, same late-night Portland flight. The déjà vu hit hard. Empty seats, flickering lights, the same hum in the silence. I half expected to see her by the window again, suitcase tucked tight at her side. Instead, it was strangers, scrolling phones, chewing snacks, no one carrying her weight. Still, I carried 2 coffees out of habit, hands trembling, searching the rows anyway. One cup went cold untouched, mocking me, reminding me she was gone for good. I dumped it in the trash, heart sinking, coworkers asking why I looked so pale. I mumbled excuses, ducked into storage, sat on a crate, palms pressed to my face. Memories flooded, her leaning on my shoulder, whispering she could breathe easier with me there. I whispered back to the dark. I couldn't even tell you how I felt. The silence answered the same way it always did. Nothing, only the echo of engines. And I realized regret wasn't fading, it was growing heavier with each shift I worked. After that, even normal things fell off. Coffee tasted bitter, sleep came restless, mornings heavier. Friends invited me out, bars, pool, late-night diners, but I always found excuses not to go. I'd rather walk the terminal halls alone, chasing a ghost that wasn't coming back. Every announcement over the speakers blurred, but the word Portland always pierced like a knife. I thought about writing her name online, searching her up, finding some way to reach out. But something stopped me. fear of shattering the magic of that one night. What if real life was messier, harsher, and she didn't remember me at all? So instead, I kept her memory tucked safe, perfect, even if it killed me slowly. Better to ache over possibility than to confirm she'd already forgotten me. Still, deep down, I hated myself for being too afraid to try. Because silence might have protected me, but it also left me completely alone. And the empty terminal kept reminding me of the kiss that almost was. Summer stretched on, nights blending together, terminals buzzing then falling silent as flights cleared. But Chloe stayed with me, even if only in flashes I couldn't shake. I'd mop the same floor where she stood, remembering her eyes, her trembling voice. Every corner of that terminal felt like it carried her shadow somehow. I thought of the way she leaned against me, small but steady, as if I mattered. That memory played louder than boarding calls, louder than coworkers shouting across empty halls. Sometimes I caught myself smiling at nothing, just the thought of her still lingering. Other times I'd curse myself under my breath, furious for letting her slip away. I wanted her back, even just another conversation, another chance to breathe together. But wishing at airports didn't change flight paths. It only left you waiting longer. And no matter how many nights I worked, she never came walking through again. Only the ache stayed, constant, carving deeper into me like runway lights at night. One evening, storm delays packed the terminal, crowds restless, complaints flying louder than rain. I weaved through passengers, coffee in hand, heart jumping every time I spotted long hair. But it was never her. Always strangers. None with Chloe's eyes, none with her silence. I ended up on break, sitting in a stairwell, rain hammering against the glass. Lightning lit the runway, and for a second I swore I saw her reflection. Hallucinations, I told myself, just exhaustion and regret playing tricks on tired eyes. Still, I whispered her name, half expecting the storm to carry her voice back. Thunder answered instead, rattling the building, reminding me how empty the night really was. I leaned back, soaked in sweat and rain smell, wondering how long I'd haunt myself. Would I always be stuck here, chasing someone I met once, never again? The storm cleared eventually, flights resumed, but my chest still carried the same weight. And I walked back to work knowing the sky wasn't the only thing breaking open. By August, I memorized the schedule for Portland flights, even when I wasn't assigned there. I'd drift toward that gate, pretending to tidy chairs, eyes scanning every new arrival. Each time disappointment hit harder, the absence cutting deeper than the night before. My coworkers noticed, teased me. Looking for someone? I laughed it off, hiding the truth. How could I explain that one night with a stranger rewrote my entire summer? That her laugh, her whisper, carried more weight than years of casual friendships? Sometimes I wondered if she thought of me, or if I was already forgotten. Maybe she told the story too, but laughed, called it nothing more than airport boredom. The thought twisted me inside, but I clung to hope she remembered differently. Every empty seat by the window felt like a cruel reminder of what I lost. And still, part of me prayed she'd step off a plane, suitcase dragging, smile waiting. But faith without action just kept me stranded, waiting in terminals with ghosts. One night, after a brutal shift, I walked past that window alone again. The glass reflected me back, tired uniform, messy hair, eyes hollow from sleepless nights. I pressed my hand against the cold pane, remembering hers brushing mine before she left. That tiny touch burned more than any kiss I'd ever known in my life. And I realized maybe it wasn't her absence hurting. It was my silence that night. I should have spoken, should have stood, should have risked breaking rules for one real chance. Instead, I sat frozen, and now regret was my permanent shift partner every night. Walking away from that window, I whispered, "You deserved braver than me, Chloe." The words stuck in my throat, tasting bitter, mixing with the hum of empty halls. I wondered if one day I'd stop punishing myself, or if this would stay forever. Because some flights take off only once, and missing them means you never see the sky. And I'd missed mine, letting her walk through that gate without chasing after her. Weeks later, summer ended, students returned, travelers filled terminals again, chaos swallowing my nights whole. But no matter how crowded it got, I still saw her face everywhere. Every laugh sounded like hers. Every glance reminded me of her leaning on my shoulder. I lived in constant echoes, trapped in a memory I couldn't shake off. Sometimes I imagine what would have happened if I chased her that night. Would we have walked out together, wandered Seattle until sunrise, no uniforms, no gates? Or would it have been messy, awkward, maybe even ruin the magic we had? I'd never know, and maybe that was worse than losing her altogether. The airport became both sanctuary and prison, filled with people leaving, but me always staying. I learned flights can carry people away, but silence is what really keeps them gone. And every shift, when I walked past her gate, I carried that truth like luggage. Because some goodbyes don't come with words, they come with regret that never checks out. Now, whenever dawn breaks over the runway, I think of Chloe boarding her last flight. The pink sky over Seattle looks almost like that morning she vanished behind the gate. I wonder if she remembers me, or if I'm just a forgotten stranger in uniform. Maybe she tells the story with a laugh, or maybe she never speaks of it again. But for me, that night lives on, sharper than any rule, brighter than any terminal light. Her voice still whispers, "It's easier to breathe with you," in quiet corners of my mind. I keep replaying the kiss that almost was, the words I never said. And I still ask myself if letting her go was kindness or pure cowardice. Because love isn't always loud. It's sometimes a choice to risk silence or break it. I chose silence, and it became the one memory I can't put down. If you were me, would you have chased her into the night, or let her fly? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.